So I've been playing around with an Italian scenario here. First of all, I had a little bit of trouble. I didn't have a flat unfolded map for this, so we have a nice fold marker here. And then I did a terrible job. I had to do two scans to fit as much map on here as I wanted, and I did a really crappy job of mating the two pieces of the scans together into a single map. So it doesn't look great, but so it works all right. So good enough for playing around. So what I've done here is I've already started the game. The Axis player, as with the D-Day scenario, the Axis player is allowed free setup here, but I've used more or less the historical setup for the Axis player. It's not necessary, but I just decided I'd go ahead and do that. And likewise, although I have to emphasize that the Allies can land anywhere they want, well, they won't want to land up here, not right away, because that probably won't work too well. The odds are pretty good that convoys won't make it through at the beginning of the game. The Allies can land anywhere they want, but I've gone ahead just for the purposes of the demonstration and had them land pretty much as historical. So we've got avalanche going on here, and then I have to scroll down a bit to get this piece of the map. Baytown here, and then the slapstick landing at Toronto there. So they've successfully, the Allies have successfully completed their invasion turn, finished that, and now we have the Axis player turn for September 1, 1943. We're in the initial phase, and we can see that some fresh German forces have arrived in Rome. We'll in the initial phase with those reinforcements having arrived. We look at the supply situation, and everybody should be in supply here for the first turn of the game. So we will end that phase, and now we get to movement. And this is where it gets kind of interesting. There are definitely some options here for the Axis player. Balance of forces is not too bad for the Axis player right off the bat as soon as the Allies have landed in three widely separated areas. Interestingly, this German paratroopers down here, this is really not a full division. Historically, the battalions are scattered around and attached to other divisions elsewhere. But just for purposes of this demonstration, I went ahead and put the entire para division down here in this position. And that tends to make the British 1st Airborne pretty vulnerable down here, keeping in mind that the Italians have surrendered, and they have also, as historically, they've pretty much assisted the British in landing here. So we have to decide what we're going to do, and I think just for the fun of it, we're going to try and whack the British 1st Airborne Division while we're setting up perimeters elsewhere to slow the Allies down until the Axis player eventually can fall back into a strong position along here as they did historically. So if we look at this, let me scroll down a bit here. So we have at least 3 combat motorized division and the para division that can move in here. So let's just start. We'll move these guys over here to make room for this. By the way, I've been tinkering with the user interface a little bit so that nowadays in this latest version, combat motorized divisions will appear in bold when using admin movement. They show up in blue. As we move along here, let's do this. You can see that it starts adding up the movement points that have been expended, and when it actually hits the maximum allowed for any particular unit, that'll turn red over there as a visual signal that that's as far as the guy can go. Although, of course, it's going to stop you if you try to move him too far. So this one, for example, just turned red, meaning that's as far as it can go. It's expended all 8 of its movement points, and if we try to move in here, it's going to drop off that one unit back here because it couldn't actually get that far. So we move some guys in here. So we'll turn them off. Let's see what's down here. Panzer Grenadiers and artillery. Let's get them into the attack. So we'll run them up to here, and I don't like having to scroll so much, but my monitor's not big enough. So we'll merge those units. We'll end that, and we'll bring up this Panzer division. Will come running up. Now this is kind of a game artifact that these combat motorized divisions are going to be able to run all the way up here and conduct this battle. And after the battle and the exploitation, they're going to scramble back into defensive positions. Anyway, we will merge this in here, and we'll stop that. Okay, so we're set up for an attack down here. And while I'm thinking about it, since this guy can't get into the attack, I'm going to cancel his move. That runs him back to here, and I'm going to turn on admin movement for this guy, and we'll see if we can't get him up here. We don't want the non-combat motorized units to get cut off in southern Italy. So I'm going to run him on up to, yeah, I'm not really sure the best thing to do. Just maybe try and get him there for now. And then just for the heck of it, this doesn't really matter at all. Let's convert that over to this just so I can remember what's in that hex. Now we got to do something about these guys. I don't think there's any sense trying to attack there. We don't have enough strength, and they're supported by a lot of naval gunfire and also air support. So let's try and get this guy around here. Whoops, too far. Tried to skip a hex. Let's put him in there. Let's run some of these guys. I think this is a more dangerous hex because it can be attacked from 2 hexes. So let's put them in here. We've got another division up here, I think. Yeah, so let's say we pick this division and start running it down to here. Now it's not going to be able to go into there, but we'll get that in there in exploitation. And then we've got some guys here. This is all combat motorized. So we'll run them down to about here, decide what to do with them. Now let me scroll up a little bit to get to Rome, where these guys are appearing. First thing I want to do is think about the future. So I will grab one of these, use some admin movement, and see if we can't run this over here. It seems to me admin movement is okay going across ravines, and at least that's the way I wrote the code. So he makes it safely to here. Oh, and again, this just helps me to remember stuff. I'm going to turn him into that in his move. Let's go back here, and let's grab another construction unit, and we'll run him down. Oops, you know, can you get here? No, that was my mistake. I really want to use admin movement for this. So I go back and give him admin movement so he can get to here. And the next turn, we'll be able to start building some forts in those hexes so we can hold that line in the future. All right, let's see what else we have here. I suppose that we should leave somebody garrisoning Rome. So we'll leave the SS police there. And all of these guys, now they're going to hightail it down the road and see how far they can get. So some of them made it to here and some of them didn't. And we'll turn that off. And I think this guy can probably come over here. Oop, bad click. Let's merge that into there. In that move, let's just check to see who hasn't moved. So just that SS police unit, everybody else has moved. And I think that is going to complete our movement for this turn. So let's in the phase, and let's just see what happens down here. This is this kind of iffy, but we'll give it a shot and see what happens. So we're going to attack here from those two hexes. We'll calculate combat. Now, I'm just going to do this kind of blind. I'm going to let the system calculate how much air support and naval gunfire support it's going to send there. As for the Germans, they don't have as much of either, but we will throw it all in. Now, unfortunately, that's a dot city, so it's going to negate armor effects for the Germans. But let's find out what happens here. I'm not even going to look at the detailed screen of what happens, so unclick that, resolve combat. We got an exchange. So let's automatically cadre this guy, and we'll retreat him to here. And it's also automatically assessed casualties to the Axis player. Now, I have the code set up right now so that the player doesn't get to decide who's lost in an exchange. The system looks at the situation and then assesses some casualties across one or more units, depending on how many units from how many hexes are involved. So it takes care of the exchange behind the scenes. Now, that can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how it does it. But it's just one of the things I've done to try to speed up play here. And I could change that easily enough to allow the player to decide for himself which of his units get lost in an exchange or half exchange. But, you know, I've just done it the other way for now. Okay, so let's say none of these guys are going to advance. We'll just put the paras in. So we'll conduct that advance there. And so that's a pretty good result. We got Taranto back, and that was an important port for the Allies to have, and they no longer have it. So maybe this gamble is going to pay off. We'll end the combat phase. We'll go to exploitation, and we'll take this guy, move him into here. We'll take this guy and move him into here. We'll take, let's see what's going on here. We have 1, we have 4, we have 6. And here we've got some stuff. And we have artillery in here. No, so this is, I'm just going to shove it all in there. You know, if I were really doing this, I'd have to pay more attention and count some stuff out. Oops, my bad. Oops, my bad again. Let's go back one, and we really want to send it into this hex here, and I'm having trouble clicking in the right place. Let me do a little shifto here to see if we can make this work a little bit better. I'm having some trouble with my clicks. There we go. Not sure what that was all about, but we'll merge those guys to defend that hex. No combat motorized units here. So they're stuck down there. And if we look at this pile, we've got, let's take the 16th Panzer. And let's see if we can get it. I'm clicking too fast here. I'm not paying enough attention to what I'm doing. There we go. So that puts them in position. And now I'm going to scroll down a bit here. Let's take, oh, it doesn't matter. I guess we'll take this and this. Now let me scroll down and we'll run this. I think we can get about to here. We'll take these two guys. run them down to here. And I can see that I wasn't paying enough attention. I should have advanced that artillery brigade when the paratroopers advanced into the city, but I missed that. So they're stuck out there. And anyway, so now we have the situation here. This is what's happened after more or less historical Allied landings against the more or less historical Axis positions. And then as the Axis player, I had to decide how do I want to play this. So I've elected to attack over here. That was a pretty risky attack, but I think it came off okay. And here we have the beachhead pretty much contained, at least for the moment. These stacks aren't real strong, and I should have sorted that out a little bit better. And then down here, we know Montgomery, he would probably be traveling 1,000,000 miles an hour, but we're going to try and slow him down a little bit there. So that's just an example of how I've been playing around with the Italy 1943 scenario.